Good morning and welcome to Hometown Heroes. I'm Rick Irving and my co host Mary Staffeld, and I have a good podcast for you today. Mary, take it away and introduce our guest.
Good morning, everybody. Today we have with us Clint from the Cowtown Warriors, amongst many, many other things he's going to tell you about. And for those of you who have never heard of Cowtown Warriors, I had heard of it when I was serving, but I never really knew what Cowtown Warriors did until I started taking Don Graves to their annual banquet, their gala. And man, it is one heck of a gala. So it's the hottest ticket in town. It's hard to get a ticket to the event. So if you can get a ticket, you need to get a hold of it when you can. But I'll tell you, when they start to show what they have done for disabled veterans, it is astounding, the things that organization does. Building ramps, fixing bathrooms, helping pay rent. It's amazing, but it's not. And the other thing with some of what they do is that it's not just to give them a handout. So the veterans don't just get a handout, but they get a hand up. And that's what really, really impressed me about what they do. So I'm telling you, if you ever get a chance to go to one of their galas, and they do some neat fundraising things. And it's, the whole card thing is just amazing to me. I keep telling our folks, we need to steal that thing with the cards. But Clint will explain all that to you. But I am just always in awe when we're there. And of course, Don gets treated just so fabulously. And he sings the national anthem and he sings God Bless America. And people just circle around him and wanted to. Yeah, it takes us an hour to leave because everybody wants pictures with Don. So it's really a magical event, and my hat's off to Clint and everybody else that works that event and runs that organization. It's really an organization. So Clint, and I know Rick may not have heard as much of your story as some of us have. But, if you want to just jump in here now and start to tell us about who you are, how you got to be where you are today, about your service, that would just be lovely.
Sure, I'll do that real quick. I got a mention here that came up. Terry Burgess said hello. So hi, Terry. I met him actually through my current job as the elections administrator, as he serves on our ballot board. And if we get to the time to get to that, I'll explain all that. But we can start with the Cowtown Warriors. So I've been a part of the organization since 2017, right? I kind of started attending the organization right before I retired, and then transitioned and moved on to the board once I had retired from the Marine Corps. And the organization originally was established in 2013. And the very first event in the fundraiser was actually to support a wounded warrior regiment. And it was a Marine regiment that had been, I guess, stood up because of so many injured Marines coming back from Afghanistan, Iraq. It was a place to rehabilitate, get them cured, either get them back into the Fleet Marine Force or transition them on back into their civilian lives. And they had a need, and a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Spann, they had spoken to him. And so he's the one that started all this back in 2013. And since then, it's kind of grown some legs and really started running. We do have our annual event. It is the last Saturday in February every year, the last Saturday in February. And it is quite the event. We do the whole 12th floor of the Fort Worth Club. And of course, we always have great guests. It is such a privilege and an honor to have Don there every year. And it is something else to have him sing the national anthem at the beginning of your event and then close everything out with God Bless America. You can't book into an event any better than that. And having you there with us, Mary, you've sat at my table a couple of times. Love having you guys.
And I get to dress up. Like I get to wear it's like going to adult prom.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
hopefully the only time of the year I wear a tux, but yeah, it's a black tie. We do great guest speakers, but the whole goal of the event is to raise the money to support our operations throughout the year. And the neat thing about it is we have been very, very fortunate that since the very beginning, Ed Kramer and Power Services have underwritten the event so that it doesn't cost us anything. And so all the money that we raise, we make sure 100% of it goes back to assisting a veteran. One thing that's unique about our organization, the board members pay for their own tables at that event. I pay to be there, and our money goes into what we call our operations fund, and that's to cover our overhead, website maintenance, things like that. So we pay all those costs to make sure that when you donate your money and you say, I want to assist a disabled veteran, that's what it does. And the event, we have a great time, a good auction. We tell some stories of the people that we've helped throughout the year, and just get to hang out, camaraderie, because you do have so many veterans in the room, and everybody there is there for the same reason. They all want to help, and they all want to assist disabled veterans. And it's when you get that group of people together, they're just good people. Everybody in there is a good person because they're there for the right reason. And it's an opportunity. All the bad and the ugly that's going on elsewhere, it's not there that night. It really is. It's just a good night, and you get to leave there just feeling good and ready to go. And it has been such a privilege to get to be not only a board member, but serve as the president. I am actually, this is probably going to be, I've got one more board meeting as the president, then I'll be stepping down. My current job, it's getting a little busy, and I need to step down from being president. I'll stay on the board, but there's this big election thing coming up, and so I gotta kind of focus on that. But yeah, it is a great organization, and we do a lot of great things. And the other neat thing that we do is we've limited ourselves, and I say limited, but to just North Texas. We help North Texas veterans. So when you donate, your money stays here. It's not going anywhere else. It's staying here, and it's helping in our community. It's the disabled veterans that you walk past every day. You see them when you're out at the grocery store. Those are the people that you're helping. So we think we do a great job. But I guess my opinion's a little biased.
Well, I think you do a good job. So, and have been for, like you said, many, many years. So, the community thanks you for what you do. And I know that you've helped veterans that I know, and it's just amazing. And like you said, it's a great group of people. When you go in that room, you don't feel like, you don't belong. You feel that camaraderie and that you belong there. So if you can, I'm telling you folks, if you can figure out how to get a ticket, they start to get real hard to get. You got to get one.
They go quick. They do. And the neat thing is also how we assist the veterans. And you had brought that up. We're not here to give handouts, right? Our goal is to make sure that the support that we give gets them on their feet and some ground under them. They can start moving on with their lives and be productive members of society. The best example of that one was a lady that we helped, and Jan, you saw the video. I had received her name as needing assistance because she had gotten in a bad way and was trying to fix, I think it was a 1974 mobile home that I think she bought for like $1,400. And I don't know if you've seen a $14 mobile home, but it doesn't even have windows. It was bad. And it was so bad that she was actually at the time sleeping, I believe, on a friend's couch with her 8-month-old girl while she was trying to fix this up so they could have a place to live. And it was brought to Cowtown Warriors because she needed a new roof on that. As a multitude of things needed to be fixed, but the most pressing thing was the new roof because it just was leaking water everywhere and destroying everything. And they couldn't find a contractor or a roofer that would touch it. And so I looked at it, and then I briefed it all to the board, and we decided that to throw money at that trailer would not be a good use of our donors' money, because that trailer would hold her down forever, because she was going to be fixing it and repairing it and working on it. And the money, when she'd be able to get a job, all her money would be going right back into keeping that in, and it would just be an anchor in her life that she'd never be able to get away from. And so we decided that instead of replacing the roof, we would replace the whole trailer. And so we bought her a new home, and we partnered with Cowtown Homes. They're a company off of I want to say 1187, but I could be incorrect. And they sold us the home at cost. They didn't make a dime on it, and even donated the pole to get the home put in place. And we partnered with another organization, Servolution Network, who we work closely with. They do a lot of great things when it comes to the community, and not just veterans, but the community as a whole. And so they were able to get the septic and the electric donated and all put in. And now Jan and her daughter are living in that home that's on her dad's property. And she's got a full-time job at the Postal Service, and her life is great. And just to see that transition from the pure despair, and she was just in such a desperate place when she was asking me to replace that roof. And now she's in a position that her daughter's growing up. She's walking through the house now, and they got to have a Christmas there. And to be able to do something like that is the goal. And that's a great example of, we started with somebody that didn't even have a home, and now she's got a job. She's assisting the community. She does donate her time when she can, and just it's a great story. And
Clint, you've had folks that you've helped with rent assistance, with utility assistance, and you go through quite a process to make that determination as an organization. And then they have a commitment of things that they have to do, right? Which is why it's a hand up and not a handout.
Yes, we take a look at the situation and the situation the person's in. And a lot of times when they come to us, they're just asking for the alligator closest to the boat. That's the problem. They have their immediate need that they have to solve right then. And we look at the whole situation, and a lot of times, they're in debt and things that, and how do you get them to a position where they can be financially stable and move on with their life. And so we go through all their income, their debts, everything that they pay, find out where they're upside down, where they're red, and look at creative ways of educating them, getting them financial counseling. If they need, we require that a lot of times for a lot of the financial asks. We also look at a lot of us struggle with some PTSD issues, and is that a factor that's kind of holding them back? And so getting them the counseling they need to help get them in a position to move forward. And so doing a lot of those things, and a lot of times we may not give or do just exactly what they ask. And another gentleman came to us, and he was just looking for a mortgage payment. That's all he was doing, looking for a mortgage payment. And looking at his situation, that mortgage payment was only going to help for 30 days, and he was going to be right back in trouble. Because long story of the situation that got him where he was, but he was currently looking for a job, didn't have a job, didn't want to lose his house, wife, kids, was in a pretty tough spot, and looked at the situation, and the board got together, and we came out and we said, okay, we're going to make this mortgage payment to give you a little bit of breathing room. But here's the deal. We're also going to make your car payment and help you out there. And then if you complete this financial counseling, we'll do another month of the car payment and the mortgage to help you keep moving forward, to give you the breathing room and the time you need to find a job. And if at the end of the next month you find a job, we'll give you one more month of support to get yourself stable, and then you can move on. And he has done that, moved on. Actually, was a guest at the Cowtown Warriors ball, and he's doing great. He's got a good job, although I will give him, he's ambitious. He's looking to move up already, but he went from a place of complete despair, and actually when we spoke, he thanks Cowtown Warriors a lot, because he was at the point that he was trying to determine whether or not his life insurance would be worth more to his family than he was. And now he's in a situation that they're living their life, and they're moving forward, and it's great to be able to do things like that. Another one was, we had a lady who had a job, 19 years, cutbacks, loses her job, but she'd done the right thing. She had savings. She was fine. She was okay. But then her older family member started passing away. And so she was driving back and forth to these funerals, and wasn't job hunting, constantly back and forth. And then next thing she knows, she turns around, and she's about out of money, and she's got a car that has 4 bald tires. I'm talking steel showing. And so we provided her a month of rent and 4 new tires, and she got a job and is doing great. It's just what can we do?
But you guys have a great screening process where people can't take advantage. And I think that's another thing that a lot of folks, because I've had some folks come to me and say, I really need help with X, Y, and Z. And I get with the folks at Texas Veterans Network, otherwise known as Combined Arms. And I know you work with them as well.
Yep.
And I start talking to them, and they go, oh yeah, this one has been trying to get from every group they can. So you do have that very small percentage of people. And that's what makes some folks skeptical on donating to groups, because they're like, oh, but you guys let people take advantage. And you guys know, you make sure that you fully vet people so that you're not being taken advantage of, and that money is not squandered.
Yes, that's, we do go through their financials, and we go through the financial statements. We ask for copies of their bills and the bank accounts to look in the situation. We do visit homes, and to look at those situations, because people are entrusting us their hard-earned money in good faith that it's going to a cause to help people. And so we work very, very hard to do that. That's, I guess, maybe the fortunate thing of having a board member of a board made up of all Marines, is we're capable of working real hard, and making sure that it all works out.
Sounds like they need some Air Force around there to kind of help them with the other stuff. No.
Give them a little structure.
We, there's a lot of grunting, and we eat some crayons and to get that. But yeah, the screening is very, very important in vetting the process. And you do come across every once in a while as somebody that they don't really need it, but they were hoping to get it. And you come across the ones that just, they don't want to help themselves. We had a gentleman, we were looking through the situation, and he owned an older Escalade that he was paying a lot of money a month on. And so we said, you know what? That's a big part of your problem. Here's the deal. Let's trade that in. Let's get you something that you can afford. We will offer up the money to make the difference. So we'll eliminate a car payment for you. And there were some other things in there to get him moving forward. And he said, no, I'm not getting rid of my Escalade. I refuse to get rid of it. And we said, well, then we can't help you. And unfortunately, he didn't get assistance, because that car payment was killing him. And he didn't want to help himself.
Right.
And so unfortunately that does happen as well.
I think that Mary and I experienced something similar to that. We found help, and they were willing to do the project a certain way. And then the people say, oh no, we want it done this way. Well, that's not the way that we do it, or the organization does it. So, but the way you vet them, and especially like the example you gave, where you could have just given that fella 1 month's rent or for his mortgage, and then that helped him for a little bit, but because you did a little bit more and made him go to the financial counseling, uh, you're going to be able to look back and say, hey, we did something that helped that fella, get a grasp of his situation and move up instead of just getting a handout for a month. So,
Yeah, it is. It's really great. And that's, kind of I guess the selfish piece of it is you feel so good when you get to be a part of that, right? When you see somebody's life change. I, you know, the, I still remember the hug I got from a wife and she said, "You gave me my husband back." That to be able to have that kind of impact on somebody's life, it makes it so worth it. Um, and that's some of the, I guess, the selfish gratification that comes out of doing what we do and helping others. But it is helping others is still a very, very selfless task, and it is very time consuming, and you've got to be committed to doing it.
So tell us how, as many of us who have served, and all of us here have, we have a servant's heart. And so what brought you to want to be in the military? What did you do in there? And how did that lead you to what you're doing today, both with Cowtown Warriors and in your civilian employment?
All right. Well, I hope you're ready for a story.
I'm ready.
So originally, I was born and raised in Wyoming, Sheridan, way up north. So I do remember the winters when waiting at the bus stop, you'd breathe in, and the moisture in your nose, your nostrils would freeze together and stick, right? And all these people, they're like, "Oh, you're from Wyoming. It's so beautiful." And I'm like, "Yes, you clearly never delivered newspapers on a BMX bike in a Wyoming winter, because I have, and I'm not going back." And so actually, I ended up in the Marine Corps because my best friend, he did it. I was in Wyoming, small town Wyoming, living with my mom. Didn't really have much of any other out. That you don't really get out of the small towns and unless you find some way to do it. And so my best friend, he was the one that always wanted to be a Marine. And so the moment he was old enough to go sign the paperwork, he was in signing, and I was around him. And then I was around the recruiter. And so finally I was like, well, I got nothing else better to do. Why not? And the funny thing is he ended up doing 4 years, got out, and now does a lot supporting veterans, working for the VA. He's been working there for almost probably over 15 years, going on 2 decades now. And I did 20 years and retired. So it's kind of funny how that worked out. But yeah, my best friend got me into it. I actually didn't end up going to boot camp until I was 19. So I went to boot camp June of 97 in the communications field. My recruiter, mom said, "You can't be a grunt." My recruiter said, "Well, I'm going to put you in comm and you'll be a battery operated grunt." And what I didn't realize is he did, it was communications on the paperwork, but there's a 2600 field of communications that's where you have your signals intelligence, your linguists, things like that. And so at boot camp, I had to take a battery of tests, and apparently I did very well because I remember one of the days I was the most scared at boot camp. We were in swim qual, and drill instructors pulled me out and sent me to the admin building, and I was all by myself. And you don't go anywhere by yourself in boot camp, especially not the admin building. And so I'm thinking I'm about to go to prison. Something's wrong, and are they going to kill me? What's going on? And I ended up walking out of there, and my 4-year contract had become a 6-year contract. And I had orders to the Defense Language Institute to be in signals intelligence and a Korean linguist.
At the Presidio in the Monterey, California.
Yes, that was a beautiful place. I was very fortunate when I got there. They didn't have any of the Korean school seats open, and it was like an 8-month wait, and it was 18 months of school. Well, I'm a young Marine. I just graduated boot camp. Like, I want to get to the Fleet Marine Force and like fight something with a spoon, not sit in school and learn a language. And so I had heard through the underground that Spanish was only 6 months, and that there were some seats that were open. And so when I was checking in and talking to the company gunny, I told him I wanted to be in Spanish. And he looks at me and he goes, "You want me to send a white kid named Ludwig to Spanish?" And I said, "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant." And pretty much he goes, "You're lucky. I've got seats I have to fill or we lose them. So here you go." And so I ended up becoming a Spanish linguist. And then from there, I went to Intel School, Signals Intelligence School, which, if you don't know at the time, is on Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo.
Yeah.
Now, I'd never been to Texas, and that was my first experience of Texas.
Oh, fun.
In the summer. San Angelo in the summer.
God bless you.
It was so hot. And when I left, I swore I was never coming back to Texas. I was miserable. And so from there, my first duty station was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And then moved on, was there for a couple of years, moved on, went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And while I was there, I was like, I've been doing this intel thing. I want to be a tough guy Marine. So I volunteered to try out in 2nd Radio Battalion. They've got a platoon, a ready reconnaissance platoon. And the whole goal was to be able to get signals intelligence people close to an objective. And so we would insert an extract with the reconnaissance teams. And so I got to have all the fun, jump school, got to go to SEER school and play POW for a while, and playing on the Zodiacs and doing all that great stuff. So doing kind of the fun Marine stuff that you think about. And then I remember I was scheduled to go on the 2-2 MEU, and that's a Marine Expeditionary Unit. And there's 3 of those positioned around the world about any time. And they call it America's 911 Force. If something happens, you've got 3 boats and a bunch of Marines that can respond that fast. Well, back then, this was 2001. And they called it a med cruise. You'd make somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 Mediterranean in 6 months. And there's a 6-month workup to it. And so we're getting ready to go. We were about done with our training, and September 11th happened. And I remember, so we just come out of the field the day before, and I was coming in, and it's a skiff. It's where they had classified information, and we did training and things like that. And there was a TV, and I remember watching the second plane hit as we were watching that live stream. And that's when everybody knew it. Hey, this deployment's about to change. And it did. We did not get our 11 port calls. In fact, we got to go straight through the Suez Canal. And so that was a interesting deployment there. Kind of a fun story from that one. I don't know if you remember back then, but Pakistan and India were getting pretty mad at each other, and they had threatened to nuke each other. And so I'm sitting. They had us the MSP Mission Special Purpose Force. We were sitting basically on the ready ramp for several days, and we got all our gear on and everything. And I remember looking over at my buddy, and I said, "You know what?" I said, "I think we're missing something." He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I don't have a nuclear missile catcher's mitt, because if they launched nukes, we were going in to evacuate Americans. And I wasn't sure what my gas mask and my M4 at the time M16 was going to do against nuclear missile. But we were going to find out. Fortunately, they didn't shoot each other. And so came back from that deployment, and I had applied for, and I got selected for, it's a program called the Marine Enlisted Commissioning Education Program. And the goal of that is to transition to a Marine Corps officer. And I'd applied. I ended up getting accepted and got to go do that. And so I did go and get a college degree. I got a commission. Although at the time it was almost a demotion, going from a gunnery sergeant to a lieutenant. But I became a counterintelligence human intelligence officer, and did that for several years, and then ended up Marine Corps decided that it'd be great to send a CI human officer on recruiting duty. And so I became actually the XO for Recruiting Station Dallas, which the headquarters is actually in Richardson. And our area of responsibility is about 60,000 square miles. It goes all the way, and I had a location in Conway, Arkansas. If you can imagine just the size of that. I had 22 locations scattered around Texas and Arkansas. And that was quite the experience. I put 70,000 miles on my own car in 2 years. And about that time, it was putting in my paperwork, getting ready to retire. And so they were going to PCS me, and they moved me over to the Joint Reserve Base, which used to be Carswell, here in Fort Worth. And so I'm here in Fort Worth, and they put me in the officer recruiting shop. And so then it was 1 million square miles that we had to deal with: Wyoming, Colorado, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. And there was the officer recruiting mission there. And I'm getting ready to retire. And one of the officers that had retired out of that about a year before me, who actually is also on the board for Cowtown Warriors, reached out to a bunch of us and said, "Hey, man, this civilian thing, it's tough. They don't care about your awards. They don't care about any of that. It's all about networking and who you know." And he informed us of a Marine networking event at Bar Louie on 7th Street. Imagine that. Marine networking event at bar. And so the first time I go there, I ran into Jeremy Spann. And he had been a reconnaissance Marine, and we talked and kind of hit off. And he called me up and said, "Hey, I got this guy you need to talk to." Because I was getting ready to transition and get out. And so that ended up, turns out that person, I didn't know at the time. I thought he was a financial advisor type person, but he was a professional headhunter, and just happened to be in a breakfast club with Mary Louise Nicholson, who was the county clerk and for Tarrant County. And she had said to him, "Hey, I'm looking to fill my chief deputy position. Do you know anybody that can lead and make decisions?" She goes, "I got a guy." And so he gave me a copy of the job description, and I gave my resume and stuff. And I remember her executive secretary calls and says, "Mary Louise Nicholson would like to meet with me, and at this date and time." And I'm like, "Well, obviously she's very important. I'm just going to accept that time," knowing it was 3 days after I was having shoulder surgery. So I walk in her office, and 3 days after shoulder surgery, and I was going to go on base and check in because I still hadn't retired yet. I was still on active duty. And so I'm in my Deltas in a sling for the first time I meet an elected official. And it's that, I mean, you can't even make the story up. I get in there, sit down, and a couple of pleasantries. And she holds up my resume and she goes, "I don't even know what this says."
Yeah, which is what happens to a lot of us, that when we
Yes.
get out, we transition and we don't know how to write for the civilian sector.
Nope, we don't. And they tried. They have the classes that they put you through and try to translate what you did in the civilian sector. And I tried hard, but apparently I failed miserably. and then she holds up the job description and she goes, "Do you know what this says?" And I said, "The details?" And I said, "No, I don't." I said, "But I've read it." And I said, "And it says you need somebody that can lead and make good decisions. I can do that. The rest of it, I'll figure it out. The Marine Corps send me somewhere, say, you've got 3 months to figure this out or you're fired." And this is the most amazing thing. We talked for about an hour, and she told me to apply for the job. So I applied and went another round of interviews. And she hired me, and I was amazed because I had no county experience. I didn't even know what county government was, let alone a county clerk's office. I didn't know what they did, and she hired me to be her number two, and to run the organization. And I I can't thank her enough for that because she took a risk hiring an unknown. Because also, the stereotype of a Marine that comes with that in an organization. When I stepped into the county clerk's office, out of the 140 some employees, they had 5 males. And so the stereotype of me being a Marine, and they think I'm gonna go all full metal jacket, um, gunny high, pull a gunny highway out of Heartbreak Ridge or something. Just carrying that along, and she still took that risk. And great boss. I will say, even after serving in the Marine Corps for 20 years, she's the best boss I ever worked for. And it was a privilege to get to run that. The county clerk's office does so much in the community. I had no idea. We've got, a big part, every single property record in Tarrant County goes through that office, and they keep it. If you remember when the interest rates dropped during COVID, well, everybody was refinancing their house. We processed over 3 million pages of documents that year.
Whew.
With 6 people doing the intake and 6 people doing the indexing. So, they've got, of course, they have to have their own accounting department. They support the 3 county courts at law, which are basically your court cases that are just above the justice of the peace level, but they fall below that district court level. So it's usually, I think it's 20 to 200,000 is the limit there for those. And then the probate courts, which does the mental health and the execution of wills, things like that. We support all those courts. Then they got another division that supports the 10 criminal misdemeanor courts. Then the vital records, they had 8 vital records locations around the county that issue your birth certificates, your death certificates, your DBAs. All of that is done through them. And then, of course, we took on, and we're doing passport offices as well. So it's 6 passport offices that we were running. Let me see, did I leave anybody out? Of course, you have your admin section to go along with all of that. And so it's a large organization that has its fingers kind of everywhere. And it was a lot to learn. I enjoyed the job, to get to serve the public, because that's what we did. We're providing the services that everybody needs. It's everybody's born. Most everybody gets married, so they get their marriage license. Everything comes through our office. You buy a house, it comes through. So it was just one of those things. We got to interact and touch the public and do a lot for the county, and it's a lot that they don't even know we do, right? But that's how you know government's working, because you don't know what it's doing, because you don't care. You get what you need from government, right? It's when you don't get what you need is when everybody starts asking questions. And so I was doing that job, and while I was working that, the election administrator position came open, and I was approached saying, "Hey, Clint, we really want to get somebody in there that we know that can do the job and that we trust and do a great job. What do you think? We think you should do it." And my response was, "Hell no." I had a good job. I was happy. I didn't know grass was greener on the other side of the fence, because I was eating green grass right where I was at. Financially, I was fine. My family was fine. I had a great boss that I loved working for, doing a job I enjoyed. And that you can't ask for much more than that. And so they said, "Hey, please just go home, talk to your family, pray on it, and come back and let us know what you think." So I went home and talked to my wife and thought about it, and I got to thinking, and with a 20-year career, I've had the unfortunate experience of being in country when we're loading caskets covered in flags to send them back home, and I've also had to be the Marine that's pulled that flag off and folded it and gotten down on one knee and handed it to a mom or a spouse. And so we have a unique understanding of what our freedoms are worth and what they cost and what it means for those things and to do those things. And another thing is when I talk about leadership and decision making, I always say when you're a servant leader and you're running an organization or leading an organization, if you're making a decision and words like I, me, my are going through your head, you're going down the wrong path because it's not about you. And for me to not apply for the position would have been solely for me. It would have been about me and I. And so I thought, well, that would have been kind of a selfish thing to do. And I wouldn't be following my own advice. So I went ahead and applied for the position and interviewed the election commission, decided that I would be good for the job. And so I've been doing it now since August 3rd of 2023. So, or August 1st, technically. So almost a year now, not quite. And I'm now the Tarrant County Elections Administrator.
In that job, you answer to the county commissioners, or who do you answer to?
Okay, here's a fun one for you. So you brought up the commissioners, so I'll speak to them first. So the commissioners, they there's a lot of rules and stuff, but they choose kind of the voting style or system in Tarrant County. Right now, we use countywide polling place program. So you can vote at any polling location on election day anywhere in the county. Instead of the other option would be precinct based, where you can only vote in your home precinct. And so they chose to do the countywide polling place program. Of course, they approved my budget, so they control the purse strings, things like that. They are the ones that set my salary. And then you have the election commission that is responsible for hiring and firing the elections administrator. And so they're the ones that I had to interview with, and they ultimately made the decision to hire me. And then that is different people. The county judge sits on that commission. So that's the only person from the commissioner's court that sits in the commission. The other seats are the county clerk, the tax assessor collector, and the Republican Party chair and the Democratic Party chair. So that's who that commission is made up of. And so they're the ones that have can choose to hire or fire. And then you have the election board, which I chair, that has the county sheriff, the county judge again, and then both of the party chairs. And that one kind of approves me to do certain things. Like for the November election, they had to approve me to purchase the supplies that I'm going to need in order to run the November election. So I have a lot of bosses.
With very big opinions, I'm sure.
And let's go back to whenever you were at the Defensive Language Institute and you made that decision to take Spanish instead of Korean. That has probably helped you along the way, because I think, I think that's probably, if you're bilingual and can speak Spanish in our country, in our state, I think you're really a lot farther ahead because you can communicate with so many more people. Has that helped you in your career? Oh,
it has definitely helped. And unfortunately, I don't speak it near as well as I did when I was in Cuba. It took a long time before I got to Texas, but I understand it fairly well. It's the connection from my brain to the tongue. It's a lot slower now. So finding the words to speak, I'm not as good at it. I can communicate and get what I need, but I'm not a fluent speaker. But it is helpful. It has been beneficial because you do run into individuals that it's actually easier to have a conversation in Spanish than it is in English. And even in my current role, because of the communities that we serve, we have a Spanish translator on the staff and a Vietnamese translator on the staff. because based on the percentages of the population, we are required, all our voting materials have to be in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese.
And about how many people, let's say the November election, you have your regular staff, but then you have a lot of other staff that you bring in at the polling places. About how many people are you going to have?
I'm guessing we'll probably bring in the neighborhood of about 2,000 temporary employees. For the just example, I do have numbers for the primary elections. We used 2,833 temporary staff members to pull off the primaries.
That takes a big budget.
It is. I've got a decent budget. That is for sure. But we have my full-time staff is 43 people, and so your elections team works very hard and they work a lot of hours to make these things happen, and they do a great job at it.
You know, one of the things you talked about, Clint, that folks, and I know that folks will be listening to this later because Rick will put it out all kinds of different ways. And it'll be on YouTube and everything. So if anybody out there is listening, I think something that you talked about when you first were getting out and you're going on that first interview was the importance of really those folks in the community that are looking to hire somebody. They should really seriously look at our veterans, because as people are transitioning out of the military, they really do have that ability to lead and to multitask and to just to serve in different ways. And the loyalty goes a long, long way. I know when I first got off active duty in 1986, before I came back in many years later, I went on a job interview, and it was to be a general manager of a restaurant. And the guy was like, you know, if you can lead a program, if you can take care of people in the military, I'm pretty sure you can handle this. And that's a piece that I think a lot of employers fail to see is maybe there's some things that we might not have had technically, but strategically, we have the right train of thought. We know how to think. We know how to get things done. And you can teach us the other things. And I think that was such an important thing that that they saw in you when they hired you, and that people that are looking to hire really need to figure out a way to transcend that whole I don't speak the same language thing, because it is difficult when you're writing a resume or you're coming out of the military, because and if you're applying for a job in the federal government, you have to write a whole different way. Mm-hmm. So there's all different ways that you have to write resumes. And a lot of folks coming out of the military, even best efforts to help teach that, it's not always the greatest. So employers should really look at the whole person and what is it I really need this individual to do? And what they needed you to do was to lead, communicate, and to be decisions and not take a bazillion years to make them. And that's what a lot of our military veterans have. And it's all the other minutia they can be taught.
Mm-hmm. It is. That's one thing that kind of part of the reason that I chose to continue volunteering and assisting veterans is that transition out was one of the scariest parts of my entire life. And what, I try to help and to explain to the public what that's like is whether they joined out of high school or they got a commission as an officer, they go into an organization that takes whatever the time period is of the entry-level training to reprogram how they think, what they do, the way they do it. You learn a completely new language. You have a different set of laws because you fall under the Uniform Code of Military Justice now. So you've got your own language, your own set of laws. You know what you don't do. You don't worry about healthcare. You have somebody that tells you that you haven't had your teeth cleaned in a year and you're not deployable, so you have to go to the dentist.
Right.
They make all of these things that come with life that they make them get done because They want you to focus on getting your job done in the military. What is your job? Do that. And so all of those other things are so foreign, and whether it's 4 years or 20 years, you're stepping out at a disadvantage to your peers because you're entering a world you are entirely unfamiliar with. And the majority of the public is not familiar with yours. And you don't know how to speak to each other. Clearly, I mean, my resume was horrible, and I thought it was good. And the anxiety that comes along with that, and knowing that you're capable of so much, but how do you get somebody to recognize that and what you've achieved? Because when I can talk about things that I did in the military, but they don't know, they have nothing to compare that to. So they don't know if it's good or bad. And so that transition, yes, I strongly I have a biased opinion here, but encourage companies to take the time to interview a veteran and talk to them. And you may have to pull a little bit, because veterans, they tend to have a hard time talking about themselves. It's because you spend the time in the military is all about the team. It's all about the team and us getting the job done. It's not about me. It's not about it is about the team. And so they have a hard time bragging about themselves like they should in order to get a job. And they struggle, and they end up in positions where organizations like yours and the one I'm in have to step in and help them to get back on their feet so they can finish making that transition. So it is, yes, I strongly encourage it.
And it's only 1%, right? And it's only 1% of the population that serves. So it's really hard for those employers out there to really wrap their arms. And, we're a little bit different here in Fort Worth, as Rick and I have talked about so many times. There are so many veterans here, and it's such a military friendly community. It's a lot easier here than it is in a lot of other places. But it is, and I love Terry's comment there. It is so difficult in a lot of other places because, as he says, it takes a lot of effort. And Terry's comment, especially when civilians are slow and undisciplined. Let me tell you, I went in the military at 18 years old, and I got out at 26 off active duty before I returned in 2005. And I didn't even like civilians. I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't understand them. I thought that they were I was like, I can't even deal with you people. It was a really, really difficult transition even back in the 80s. And we were a bigger force, but we were also not far off of Vietnam and a lot of the sentiments around Vietnam. So in a little bit different world, but today you're talking about a very small percentage of the population. But like Clint said, for employers out there, we are focused, we are driven, we are mission oriented, we are team oriented, and that's what a lot of companies are looking for today. So look for those veterans, because you may have to your point, pull it out of them. It's hard for some veterans to really be able to tell you why they're the best candidate, but they really tend to be the best candidate because they're shapeable, they're moldable, they're teachable. We're used to being trained. We're used to be just like you. We're in many, many different positions, and you had to learn each one of those. And nobody said, hey, I'm going to give you a year or two to figure it out. You had to figure it out now. And that's what your veterans are going to do for you. They're going to be the people that are going to go the extra mile and do the work that needs to be done to get the job done. We're mission focused. Tell us what hill you need us to take and who you need us to take with you, and let's go.
Yep.
Especially the Marines.
Yeah, we are very good at that. Give us direction. We'll take care of it. But it is with and the other thing I do caution is, we sell our veterans in our veteran community, but just like every other group, we have percent that they got out of the military and it probably wasn't under the best circumstances, and they're not going to be the best when you hire them because they weren't the best, and that's why they weren't in the military anymore. That does happen. The thing is, as an
Yes.
employer, it's understanding that's the 10%. The 90% out there you just got unlucky is what ended up happening. And
Right.
don't let that put a bad taste in your mouth, and sit down and talk with another veteran. Just please interview them and have that conversation, and you will be surprised.
Yeah.
That's right.
Great point.
Well, Clint, our time's just about up for today, but let's talk about Cowtown Warriors and the events you have coming up. You've got the ball coming up in February, and are you going to have a clay shoot too? Is that on?
No clay shoot this year. Just the logistics of that with the size of our board, and because all of our board members, we all have day jobs, right? So we had to abandon the clay shoot, just a little bit too much for us. And there's our logo. And by all means, yes, please follow us. Go check out the website. Look at the event. There's lots of stuff about the people we've helped, our mission, what we do. Because we really are. We work very hard, and I believe we do a great job of changing the lives of our veterans in this local area, and moving them in a direction to really help contribute to our local society and our communities, and be that part of it, because we're a community. We all live together. And like Mary said, there's a disproportionate number of veterans in this area compared to the rest of the United States. Texas and California are the two largest contributors to the armed forces every single year. They go back and forth who wants to be number one. And here's the thing I learned about it. Texans love Texas, and they come back to Texas. When I was in the Marine Corps, you could not swing a stick and not hit a Texan, but you didn't have to, because they were already telling you they were from Texas and their state was better than yours.
That's true.
And so they come out,
True.
and they transition out, and they come back. And we have great services here. We have the clinic here in Fort Worth. You've got the big hospital over in Dallas. And so the disabled veteran population is disproportionate here. The need is greater here to really help take care of our veterans and those ones that do struggle, and help move them forward. And that's what we're attempting to do, is fill that need as best we can. And with a lot of other great organizations like Mary, you and Roll Call, and you talked about Combined Arms and the great work that they do to assist us. It takes a community to really take care of this and make this all happen. And I strongly encourage those that see this or listen, if Cowtown Warriors is not the direction you want to go, I promise you there is a veteran-oriented nonprofit in this area that will do what you're looking for.
And that's what's so great about networking. You mentioned Servolution and Combined Arms. If you can't take care of them, or you can't help them, you can give them some direction and find an organization that can. And that's the same thing that Mary does with Roll Call. People come and it's out of their wheelhouse, but hey, here's Combined Arms. You call them and they can help you. So
yeah, and that's what it's like I said. It's been such a great experience and time being a board member of Cowtown Warriors, and getting to not only meet all the people, but the assistance that we've been providing. We wish we didn't have to do it, but we're very proud and happy to do it. And it takes our donors, because not everybody's got the time to do this, because your time is money. I understand that. We understand that. And what if you cannot afford to donate your time, maybe you can afford to donate to one of these organizations or Cowtown Warriors, so they can be that your connection to providing that assistance.
that's right. And I just appreciate you so much, Clint, because you were on the wall protecting our country, and now in your job you're protecting the very foundation of our nation by making sure that we have integrity and honesty in our elections. So you've got a big job, and I just commend you for getting up there to bat.
Well,
Being
thank you.
willing to take that bullet again.
Yes. It's somebody's got to do it, right?
That's right.
The other day I was talking to a buddy and I said, I have the job that nobody wanted, but everybody's glad I have it.
I'm glad you have it.
I am too.
So, but thank you very much for inviting me and speaking to me here. I appreciate the opportunity, and great to get to meet you, Rick and Mary. Always great to see you and talk to you. And if there's anything you ever need from us, please don't hesitate to reach out.
We certainly will. But thank you so much for being here, and take care of those ballot boxes, and take care of those veterans. You're a great American.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a great day.
You too. Man, just another one of those people that we get to meet that
Yeah.
goes from the military and then comes out to serve our community in a really big way, because
Right.
the job he has, it's a kind of a thankless job, and you're right there.
You
You're a
worked right
target.
out of my mouth.
You're a
That's it.
target for everybody.
It is. 50, like he said, half of the people are not going to be happy. And,
That's right.
And it definitely is one of those jobs. So, he continues to show what you and I continue to say, right? Is we learn to serve, maybe through the military is where we got it, but after the military, we continue to serve.
That's
And
right.
that you should be able to count on from your veteran community. So
And
just
again, it's Cowtown Warriors, and you can scan that QR code and go right to their website. So
yeah. And if if you buy a table and you have extra seats that you can't fill, then let us know at roll call that you would like us to have a couple of veterans sit at your table, and we'll be happy to fill that for you. But
absolutely.
it is such a really neat event, and it's not, it's not drawn out, and there are a couple of speakers, but it really focuses in a different way on how they raise money, and they do it in such a unique and creative way. And I just love going. And every year Don tells me, make sure that's on the calendar, because that's a thing that if he could only do one thing in a year, that's the one thing that he would do.
And
So,
Don just got back from Normandy.
yes, he
had
did.
lunch with him yesterday, and
I did.
his face is everywhere.
Yes.
I was just watching the Fox a while ago, and they had a clip of him singing "God Bless America." So
yeah, somebody texted me a shot of him in 2 different Fox News stories, and I played those for him yesterday, and said, "Look, you made Laura Ingraham and Shannon Breen, I think was the other one that they had sent me." I said, "Look at this, you're everywhere," and he just laughed. But yeah, he sang his way through Normandy.
into the hearts of many people.
Yes.
And we a week or so ago, we had the send off, and then the other day we had the welcome home. So
right.
We had a lot of our friends from Roll Call and from our other organizations show up to welcome our veterans home. And all of them came home safely. One of them came home kind of sick, and then I think Al Chatwin, he had a little accident and fell after he got home.
Yeah,
so
the next night. He got home Friday night, and he had a little slip on Saturday night. Spent a little time in the hospital, but went home yesterday, and so he'll rehab his shoulder as he prepares to go to Guam in September. So, we still have on our website and in our newsletter to help, if anybody's able to, they can donate to be on the call. And that is, of course, another great organization we've talked about many a times. And so they're going to get him back to Guam. And he's up there in age. So, these guys, 98, 99, 100 years old. And these are really some of the last times they're going to have these opportunities So, if you got a little bit of money that you can help out, get on Beyond the Calls website and help get Al back to Guam, and hopefully that shoulder does not cause a problem. So
I think he'll rebound pretty quick. He's pretty resilient. So
he really is.
Tomorrow is a special day for a lot of our women, for all of our women veterans, for you and for my wife Susan, and so many more. It's Women's Veterans Recognition Day. So women have come a long way in the military. So
yeah, and I've had a few of the roll call. I put out a call for our roll call women to send me their information, a little bit of bio and a photo or two. And I've had only a few contact me. So instead of doing something every day, I thought I would have enough to do something every day. I'll have it set to be just out there tomorrow on our roll call page. We'll post photos and bios of some of our women roll call vets. And I don't know if you noticed, Rick, but we have had a huge increase in numbers of women in our midst, in our organization. So we've had a lot more women vets coming aboard, and it's really kind of nice to see, because when I joined in 2017, there weren't very many of us.
No, just, there were a few of the World War II women that came, but not a lot of women, the younger women. So
right. Yep.
Those under 90. Next month, we have the Beers and Betties, and that's a second annual benefit that the Battling Betties put on. You can go to roll-call.org and find more information about that and more information about the other things.
That was a lot of that. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We really, it's so relaxed and so easy, and it was just so much fun. So I think it'll be kind of neat to see, if we get an even bigger turnout this year. But you have all the Betties will all be in their 40s. So think, nose art from back in the 40s and 50s. And that's, they'll be dressed and ready to hang out and take pictures. And it just was a lot of fun. It was a neat little event.
It was a great afternoon.
Yeah.
And we have our roll call second annual clay shoot, and that's Sunday, October the 13th. And we need sponsors. We need teams. We had a great shoot last year, and looking forward to having another great shoot this year. So,
amen.
A lot of things going on. This month is Liberty Phillips. We had her on last week from Normandy, and she's going to do the program, and going to have some of her ambassadors from Not Holidays and Heroes, from Bridge to History. So I saw Carrie's picture a while ago, and just have Holidays and Heroes on my mind.
Yes. Yeah. We're bringing in a couple of kids on American Airlines miles. So, one of the things that Liberty doesn't get the opportunity to do very often is to bring those young people in from certain parts of the country where it's pretty pricey to do it. But we are blessed that American Airlines is one of our sponsors through miles that they donate us from the miles that folks out there that can't use all their miles donate to the Military Miles Program. And they donated those miles to us. And with some of those miles, we're able to bring 3 of those young people and 3 of the parents in from California who have gone with Liberty on her trips. And of course, we've got a couple of local ones. So we'll have several of the young people that have benefited from Bridge History. I'm real excited. I think it's going to be really neat. I think it's going to be a really neat lunch. And the RSVP line opened yesterday. So even if you didn't get the email, you can go to the roll-call.org, scrolling across the bottom, go to roll-call.org, and right there on the home page, right below the mission statement, you'll find the little link to click to RSVP. And if you're not a roll call member, you can still RSVP. But if you are a veteran, we'd appreciate you going down to the bottom of that page and clicking the join today and filling out the new member attendee form, because that gives us your military service information. And then from that, we can build you a name tag and know who you are. So, but that's where you RSVP, that it filled up in about 3 or 4 days the last few months. So make sure you get out there early and get that RSVP done. I would do it today.
As soon as I see the email, I always do it. So,
yep.
And it's pretty easy to do, because if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah,
so.
It's really about 3 seconds once you figure it out. Just always remember, even if you're a roll call member, you are always guest number 1. So
That's
it's
right.
just, it confuses so many of our folks because they think, but I'm a member, I'm not a guest. Well, but in this software, you are a guest. You are guest number 1. It's not our programming, and we can't change that. So they are guest number 1.
But it works good. So
it does.
It certainly does. Well, thank everybody for being with us today. And Clint, thank you for being a guest and telling us about your time in the military, about Cowtown Warriors, and about your new job, or your job that you have now. And we'll just be praying for you in the next few months, because there's a lot of work to do between now and November. So we hope to see everyone at roll call. And again, just make reservations at roll-call.org. So, Mary, thank you for being here today. It's always a pleasure to co-host this with you. And think about that early day. We're coming up on 2 years, because it was in July 2 years ago that we went down there and talked to Larry O'Neill, and spent a whole year down there doing our podcast live from down there from Fort Worth Memories Museum. So, Larry, just a shout out to thank you for all you did to help get this podcast going, and all the support that you've given us. We appreciate you very much. So until next week, this is Rick and Mary and Hometown Heroes, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.